Hello, everyone, and welcome to another elite episode of the Get Authentic with Marcus show. I'm your host, Marcus Ogden. On today's episode, we are joined by Miss Belle Gayer. And you know what? Let's bring her on down. How you doing today, Belle?
I'm doing absolutely fabulously. Thank you very
Good,
much.
good. Well, Belle, first question, young lady. What does the word authentic slash authenticity mean to you?
Authenticity means being true to yourself and not trying to represent yourself the way you think other people want you to look.
Ladies and gentlemen, not trying to be the way that others want you to look. Being who you are and knowing that who you are is more than enough. That's big. Belle, please share with our global audience a little bit more about yourself and the work you do right now with your career.
Thank you. Thank you, Marcus. Yeah, well, for the last 6 years, I've been on Quora, and I've been sharing some of the wisdom I've learned from 53 years of marriage with my beloved. And
Mhm.
yes, you should always think of the person that you love as your beloved and not your husband or your partner or your spouse.
Mm,
It's part of what builds love inside yourself.
mm.
I'm 74, and like I said, I've been married 53 magnificent and terrible years. The terrible ones were mostly from outside pressures and stresses, which we all have. Uh,
Mm.
so it's been quite a journey, as the Grateful Dead used to say, what a long, strange trip it's been.
So, Belle, let me ask you a question. Let's get into this whole thing about, there's great and terrible and the outside pressure. Let's start there. You do a lot of work around relationships, helping people have healthy, strong, great communication filled relationships. How do you feel, or where do you feel people do well in relationships? And where do you feel some people, when it comes to, have struggles when it comes to relationships?
Well, I've been not just happily involved in my relationship over these years, but I've been watching other people too. And I do see a lot of people making very serious mistakes. The first mistake starts with low self-esteem. If you
Mm,
don't love yourself enough, if you don't have high enough self-esteem, if you don't appreciate yourself and value yourself enough, you're going to make the wrong choices and attract the wrong people. And that's the first mistake people make. Those who do have high self-esteem, however, even they make the mistake of not understanding what love really is all about. Romantic love. Of course, there are 8 kinds of love, according to the ancient Greeks, but romantic love is only two of those. There's the honeymoon stage and uh, let's say, the enduring love stage. Honeymoon stage, according to research, only lasts 6 months to 2 years.
okay.
The after and during that stage, you're developing your enduring love, uh, and a lot of people don't understand that when the spark dies, when the electricity suddenly goes away, and like I woke up one morning, 4 months into my marriage, laying next to my husband, saying, I turned around and I looked at him and I went, I'm sleeping with my brother. I felt suddenly all those brain chemicals, these endorphins, the serotonin, everything just suddenly was poof, gone. So what do you do? No one warned me. No one told me what to expect. But suddenly I was. So for me, it was easy. I just spooned over and it wasn't a problem. But for a lot of people, they start looking elsewhere for that rush. And I think that's a big problem. The other problem, the biggest problem I see is communication. People don't communicate on the deepest, most spiritual level when they become partners that they should. And they don't know how to open up. They're afraid to open up. And I think that's the very biggest problem.
Let's go back to, you talked about how you woke up one morning next to your husband and said, wow, I'm sleeping with my brother. But instead of, like you said, where a lot of people go and look outside for that rush or that endorphin or that stimulation, you made the conscious decision to stay and work through it. And you started to really learn how to communicate better. Can you please explain to our global audience what were some things that you did when you made that realization in order to continue to fight for your marriage to get to the place where now you are thriving instead of just when you were at that time just surviving?
Well, I think that the most important thing to realize is that what you're building should be what you want it to be is the love of a lifetime. That's why you got married. You married that person because they struck a key within you. They touched special places. And
Mhm.
and even though, yes, you're being helped by all your positive endorphins and serotonin, all those brain chemicals and hormones that help you to grow toward a person, even once they're gone, you have to understand that there's so much more to love. There are the gestures, there are the words, there are just the looks, there's the touching. And it doesn't have to be sexual. It can be just a brush on the shoulder, a peck on the cheek. It's all of those things are tremendously important. I say that marriage is the hardest job you will ever undertake, and any long-term relationships, whether you're married or not. It's so much hard work, time, effort, energy, and effort. It's beyond anything you could possibly have to do in a career, even the most difficult. So people, and it's daily, little things daily. That's the problem. People start to uh, get too comfortable and take each other for granted. And what happens is they lose intimacy and they stop communicating and they lose intimacy and they drift apart. And that's when people start looking for outside validation.
You know, this is a very enlightening, very real conversation. And I can tell you, right, Belle, I had some similar challenges in my marriage where we weren't communicating well. We weren't seeing each other. We weren't trying to find ways to connect well. And, it's interesting. I like to ask this question. So, again, I just make sure I'm clear on this. I was not perfect in my marriage by any means, right? This is a question I could have done differently. We argued a lot, Belle, about money. We argued a lot about trying to have time together. We had two young children. There was a lot of pressure, things going on, right? So again, I'm not gonna say I was perfect in my marriage because I was not. At the end, though, I can say I felt right. I was trying to save the marriage by basically quote unquote giving in to whatever she wanted. She wanted to go out with her girlfriends for the weekend. I'm like, sure. You want to do this? Sure. And then looking back on it, right, Belle, that was not good. That
No,
was not the answer. And so I'd
no.
love you to shed some light because I know what I could have done differently now, but a lot of people, especially people who listen, I feel they may or may not be in a situation similar and they're trying anything and everything to save their marriage or get it back on track. And what I tried to do by giving in and letting her do what she wanted to do, it became what I was like being walked all over. And then, of course, we ended up divorcing anyway and went our separate ways. Can you shed some light for people who are in the point of their marriage where they're struggling? Intimacy is weak, communication is like very, very distant, but they're trying to save their marriage. But they don't know how. Can you shed some light on what that would look like?
Oh, absolutely. I say go away for a weekend together. Eliminate your television, your cell phone, and your computer. Go somewhere where you two can share walking outside together, being alone together, having dinner together, and actually communicating in a non conflict, non blame laying manner. Admitting that you're both imperfect and that you really want to reconnect with each other. Hold out your hands to each other, hold out your heart to each other. Be real, be honest, but take a weekend away. Take that time, or even if you just could, if you can't afford to do that, lock everything down in your own place. Stay in your place. Take those little walks. Go out to a little coffee shop. Just really show that, prove to each other that it has to be mutual. You both have to want it. Okay, that's the first thing. If one of them is already gone, one of you is already gone, it's kind of a little too late. I mean, ideally, you never get to this point, and arguing conflict, even if it's just twice a week that you're yelling at each other. That's all wrong. You must, I mean, obviously we're all human and we will all have an occasional raising of the voices and recriminations. But if you can keep your communication non-conflict most of the time and listen harder, that's a big key. If you listen harder to each other, um, if something is not clear to you, don't assume that you understand what they're saying. Say, I really need you to tell me more about. I need more about that. It means that you have to get into a spiritual communication level with each other, as though you were talking with God,
Mhm.
because we all have God within us. We all have that divine spark, and we need to share that when we. The Bible says, "Cleave." If you're going to get married, cleave to one another as one. You need to attempt to do that, and I don't think that that's what people have in mind when they get married.
Bella, I wrote something down, and you're so right. Marriage or long-term relationships is one of the hardest yet most rewarding jobs that you have to do because it's constant and people are always growing, pivoting. You don't stay the same. Your
Absolutely.
your likes are different, how you view things are different, how you have discussion about things are different, your viewpoints could be different. So it's very important to have a good sense of foundation of, like you said, right, Belle, respect. You want to be there and you really want to have some success in your marriage. So Belle, please share with our global audience how you and your beau, like the love of your life, like your person, I guess you kind of your how'd you name him?
Beloved, beloved.
Your beloved. Please tell our global audience how you and your beloved have had such a strong relationship for so long in a time, right, where Belle, a lot of people, when something goes wrong or they feel disrespected or they feel underappreciated, they want to go to that app and swipe right or swipe left.
Well, people think it's easier to start over, which may or may not be true. It is hard work to get back the love in a relationship, to restart it, to reignite it. But it's easy to do if you only pay attention. So your question is, what should you do if you haven't? I think what you have to do is rethink how you feel about that person. Remember why you married them. Remember why you fell in love. Remember the best of times you had and why you had them. Remember what you used to share as special, as beautiful, as transcendent, whether it was times you had having children together, having the baby, when you had that child, great sex, whatever it is. You need to start reconsidering that life is a roller coaster. You need to reconsider that the fact being that there will always be a roller coaster. Life will always be a roller coaster. And as you said, you change, they change, everything changes, the world changes. But your love can be a constant in your life. Your love can be a foundation in your life.
Ladies and gentlemen, I really respect what Belle said about, life is a roller coaster. There's ups, downs, all arounds. No one's life is going to be just straight line, easy, very much just, from A to B, no ups, downs, no hills or sways, no peaks or valleys. That's not real. So, I really hope you got a great sense from that last segment that you need to remember the good times with that individual that you're with. That beloved person that you are with, you need to think if you're having a bad day with them right now, well, why did you fall in love with them? Or why did you decide to marry them? Why did you decide to have children with them? Like, what is it? Because again, if you're struggling at that moment, there's something about that individual at some time, at some point in your life that you love, that you were like, this is amazing. So try to reconnect and get back to that. But I want to touch on something that Belle talked about earlier, why a lot of relationships either fail or are strained or are difficult or don't last outside external pressure. Belle, please talk to our global audience about how it is so imperative they don't let external pressure cause ripples or foundational cracks in their relationship.
Absolutely. That's so true. When the recession came, the stock market and the recession came in 2008, my husband lost everything, and we were on welfare for a while. It took us 10 years to come out of that. I could have come out and said, if this is more than I can bear, I can't deal with this. But the two people together are stronger. You can deal with adversity better and more effectively together if you understand there are so many outside pressures. Your mother-in-law might hate you. Your career just blew up. Financial pressures, of course, they can come in and out of your life, but you can be stronger together.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's all about togetherness. And if you can do what you need to do, if you can stick together through hardship, if you can stay connected through hard times, you can achieve what you want. And I just wrote down my next question because I love to just kind of build questions off what people say. You everybody should know that by now. Belle, I tell people one thing they have to really learn how to navigate in life is uncertainty. Okay? Uncertainty. And I say there is opportunity in uncertainty, but you just have to be strong enough. You have to be focused enough to understand that if you're going to get to that point, that you have to look at things and be more optimistic than pessimistic. Period. So, and relationships is full of uncertainty. You can't control the other person. You can only do 100% of your part. I don't say 50, I say 100, 100. You are that part of the 100, of the 200. You can do that part, but you can't do the other 100. That's not possible. It's full of uncertainty, but there is opportunity in uncertainty. Belle, can you please tell our global audience or help them understand how they can navigate uncertainty by having a much better positive outlook and a much better positive mindset?
Well, failure is the same thing. You can take failure and end up depressed and even attempting suicide or being successful at that. Failure is the same exact situation. Do you take failure and draw yourself inside, or do you say, I am going to get through this. I'm going to make it. I am going to succeed now. This failure was a big lesson for me. Uncertainty is just exactly the same. Life is full of questions and uncertainties. And in two people in a partnership can feel differently about things, and that makes things uncertain. But when you work through that uncertainty, or certain, on the other hand, two people working through uncertainty together can also be a big advantage.
Here's the thing, right, ladies and gentlemen? It comes back to togetherness, it comes back to communication, it comes back to compatibility. And I tell people when you're trying to build a healthy, strong relationship, it is so important that the person that you're with, that beloved person that you're choosing to be with, you all have to be on the same page. If you're not on the same page, no matter what you're trying to do, at some point along the way, it won't work out. It just won't. So I have a three-part question, okay, Belle? I tell people in order to create the type of life that you want, right? You have to learn how to navigate these three things. The first thing is your environment. You have to learn how to navigate and choose the environment that you are going to be in and what you are around, what you're looking at. How would you tell people listening to this awesome podcast episode to have a good relationship with their beloved individual? How can they control or really keep themselves in a great environment?
Well, as you've said, negativity is a death knell for your career or for your marriage or for your life. You really need to keep a positive point of view. Jewish philosophy is that all human beings have a dual nature, a yetzer hara, which is a bad or evil inclinations and thoughts, and a yetzer hatov, good inclinations and thoughts. The Yetzer Hara can be very strong, and it's the selfish part of your nature. And sometimes selfishness is okay, but sometimes it's not. And always, Yetzer Hatov needs to be activated if your Yetzer Hara is too strong. If people would only understand that when you have a negative thought, whether it's about your own self-worth or about a situation, if you look at it and say, no, I'm not listening to that. I'm going to go for the positive of this. I'm moving forward and I'm thinking of this with hope and eagerness for the future. That's the best way to eliminate. But you do, as you said, have to start out with basic compatibilities in every relationship. If you don't have those basic compatibilities, you are kind of pretty much bound for failure, no matter how
Mm.
hard you try.
Mm. Ladies and gentlemen, please be sure to connect with and or be with or choose to be with someone you are compatible with. The second thing you have to learn how to control or make sure you're around is going to be your, around is your associations, right? Your associations. Who are you hanging around? Please talk about, right, Belle, how it's so critical for people to have healthy relationships. They choose what we call, those we call like the expanded associations. Those people that lift you up, support you, that want to see you and your beloved one do well.
Absolutely. When I give advice on Quora, I always say the most important thing to know is expand your universe, eliminate the negative people, eliminate negativity from your life, and go out and find the kind of people that share your interests, goals, and what you're looking for in life. Go out and learn to meditate, take up a meditative practice, physical practice like yoga or tai chi or qigong. Learn to garden. It's wonderful. It's amazing for meditation and just for your health and lowering stress. There are so many things that I have long lists of things that I leave for people with advice. Just it's and try, even if you don't believe in God, find a spiritual place. Find your spiritual center so that you have more foundation and grounding and comfort in who and what you are and what you believe in. Because when you feel that way and you are that way, you will draw better people to you.
And the last thing, how would you tell people to control or watch for their input, what they're watching and or listening to maintain a healthy, strong relationship?
Okay, the first thing I have to say, because of the times we're in today, don't be a sheep. Look to objective sources to find what truly is happening out there instead of the distorted stuff like social media, which is I don't even want to go there. Social media, and I won't even go to the news stations who twist the news. We had Walter Cronkite. Okay, we didn't have to worry about our news in my early days, but today it's a scary place. You really have to search around and come to a better place than just following the crowd.
Ladies and gentlemen, do not just follow the herd. Be your own thought, innovative, self inspired individual. Belle, phenomenal interview. How can people get in touch with you or connect with you or find your content?
Well, I'm writing a book, and it's not finished yet. I'm distilling it from my Quora content. It's the title is "Are Relationships for Suckers?"
Mm.
Because why pick up my book? There are a million books out there on it, and I do have a lot. And I don't believe that relationships are for suckers, which should be obvious from this interview. But I am on Quora, and I do have a website for called Are Relationships for Suckers.com, but I haven't quite set it up yet. But I try to answer questions as much as I can on Quora. I pretty much answer most of them, and that's where I'm right now. That's where I am. I'm moving toward trying to get out to the rest of the world.
Ladies and gentlemen, go to Quora and connect with Belle, follow her content, and gain insight from what she speaks on and how she helps to inspire the masses. And the authentic tip of this great interview in life, please don't follow the herd. Be a self inspired, self innovative, self thinking individual. When you can think for yourself, create your own blueprint, and you can dance and move to your own tune in life, that's when greatness happens. Again, my name is Marcus Ogden. I am the host of the Get Authentic with Marcus show. Thanks for tuning in. Have a fantastic day.